Step 1, take your paper pattern and lie it on the fabric and cut it out. Make sure to pin it down so that it is secure as you cut around it. Please do your best to place the paper as close to the bottom fabric as possible so that we don't have an excess of waste. We will use what's left over for the seat cushion. Step 2, repeat the same thing by cutting out the fleece. It needs to be the size of the paper. Move on to cutting out the button pieces. You will need 1 circle of fabric, 1 circle of fleece for your button. Grab a needle and thread, and I'll show you the next step. You're going to thread the needle and only tie a knot into one end of the thread. Take your fabric and your polyfill, and you're going to sandwich those together with the right side of the fabric on top. You can see the difference between the right side and the wrong side. Wrong side is the duller side. The right side is the bright side, so you can see that. And then we're just going to do a simple stitch all the way around your circle, and your stitches are going to be fairly large because we are going to gather this up around our wooden button. So you can see I'm only using 1 single strand of the thread, and I'm stitching around the circle through both layers, the polyfill, which is the white fluff, and your fabric. Once I have gotten around to the knot where I started, I am going to stop. Okay, so go ahead and complete this next step. Moving on to the next step. You've given in your kit 2 of these pre-cut wooden buttons. You're going to take a piece of the carpet thread and feed it through 1 hole and then back on your button. Leave quite a bit of excess out because you do need to really get a hold of this and pull it tight. We'll be tying knots in it and securing it to the back of the board with a staple gun. Once you have completed these steps for your buttons, we're going to do a little bit of hot glue on the back of this, and we're going to glue it down in the center of our polyfill and fabric where we have stitched around it. Remember, don't cut these threads off, leave them long. So go ahead and put a little hot glue in here and glue that down, and we'll move to the next step. If you get a little too much hot glue, you'll notice that it comes up through these holes. I just take a straight pin and push that glue around because we do need to get a needle through there. So just kind of clean it out just a little bit in case you got a little too much glue. The other thing you can do is try to put your glue on your sides when you glue the button down. I kind of got a little excited about the hot glue. Once you've done that, go ahead and tie a knot here in your strings from your button, and so that is secure. Then we're going to take the other string that's on the outside of our button, and we're going to pull that up and secure it down. So I'm going to take the string that I had sewn around, and I'm going to pull that up nice and tight, and you'll see how it closes around the button and makes a covered button. Just going to pull that nice and tight. And then with your needle that you had, you're going to come through and do just a couple stitches across the button to pull it nice and tight with your string. Maybe 3 times, 4 times across the button just to secure that. So you can see I'm going across the button where I have pulled it. These strings are staying free. Pulling them nice and tight. It's probably the fourth one across. Up. Don't pull too tight, break your thread. That's okay. We will tie another knot and make a couple, 3 or 4 more stitches, and it'll be fine. So if that happens to you, don't worry. The button is going to be pulled through the back of the chair anyway. This is just to secure the fabric in place. So if that happens, that's okay. Just go ahead and do a couple more stitches through so it will be secure. And then to knot it, we're going to go into the fabric, and then you'll see, get these out of the way, you'll see these are the loops from me taking the stitch. Take your needle through those loops and pull it tight. And that makes a knot. We're going to go ahead and do another one. So I'm going into the fabric, and the loop that is left from the stitch, put my needle through there and pull it down tight. Once I've done that a couple of times, I can cut my threads off, and I have a covered button ready to go for the chair back. So you do need to repeat this process twice with your other pieces. We need to prep the back of the chair piece, which is the board. You need to begin by marking the center of the bottom and the center of the top. Now these boards are not perfect rectangle. You can see the top is wider than the bottom, so do make sure that you measure the center line for both. Once you've done that, you're going to trace a line from the top to the bottom, and then measure from top to bottom and find your center point. Okay, so on the board, you can see that I have found the center line, and here's the intersection. Once I've done that, I'm going to measure from the center intersection to the top, and whatever the center of that is, I'm going to make a little mark, and the same for the bottom. And this is where we're going to drill a pilot hole for our buttons to secure. Each chair is completely different, so it's important that you follow these steps regardless what number of chair you have. None of the chairs are the same, so you must find your center point, and then the center point from the top to the intersection for the buttons. So I have drilled the hole, and this is where we'll be feeding our thread through to secure our buttons. Okay, we are ready to assemble. We have the buttons done. We have this pre-drilled. We have our foam cut. We have our polyfill, and we have our fabric. The next step is to, if we have some at school, which I hope we do, we're going to do some spray mount onto this and then secure the foam down. Spray mount is just an aerosol glue that works a lot better. I don't have any here at home, I don't think. Maybe I do. But you're going to spray that and then secure it. Then we're going to lay our polyfill on top of that, and then the fabric on top of that. And then we're going to do wrapping around the board and staple that down. All right, it's time for us to secure the fabric to the board. The buttons will be our last step. So once we have glued the foam to the board, you're going to flip it over. Now I did do 2 circles just to help me with where my buttons are going to go, because there's some other little holes in the board from other projects. So those are the ones that we're going to use to put our buttons on, which is the last step. So now we're going to take our fabric and we're going to secure it with a staple gun. We're going to secure it at the bottom and the top, and then at the center on the 2 sides. We're going to pull it as tight as we possibly can. Okay. So I'm rolling up my cloth here at the bottom, and I'm going to do a staple here. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And pull nice and tight. You only want it to be really, really snug. And then put in your staple. And then we're going to spin it, and we're going to do the same thing on the sides in the center. So I'm rolling this one up, not pulling super tight, but snugly. And then again here, and I'm going to pull it really, really tight. As tight as I can pull. Make sure you're doing it straight so it doesn't get crooked on the front. So you would have 4 staples in the back, top, bottom, and the sides. And then you start working. You do 2 here at the top, 2 there at the bottom, and then sides. And then you keep going. Once you get to the corners, okay, the corners are a little bit trickier. You want to pull the corner down like this at an angle. You're gonna pull that nice and tight and staple, and then you're gonna fold these in and over, kind of like you're wrapping a package. And you would do the same with this one. This one gets folded down so that when we look at the front, it is a clean corner. Okay, so your next step is to go ahead and staple your fabric to your piece of wood. Now, as you're working and doing your upholstery, it's really nice to have that second pair of hands so that you can pull it nice and tight. You can do it with one person. It's just easier if one person is holding for you and then you staple. But note that the bottom, I think you can see here, when you pull this up and staple, you'll see that this one, I've folded it in, is on top and the sides are on the bottom. So you can see how, this bottom one is on top of that fold, and the same over here, it's on top of the side. So that just makes it to be a lot cleaner when we have a finished product instead of it being all mismatched. So have your top and bottom be the top fold as you pull it in, and your sides are going underneath to give a nice clean corner. When we come around here, they are nice clean corners. Once you have done all your staples, you have upholstered the back. And you have your staples in all the way around. Don't be shy about your staples. Make sure that you do push really hard. You want them to be very, very, very flat. You don't want any that are just kind of sticking up because they won't hold. So really push hard to get them in there. The last step is securing our buttons with a special needle. The last step is putting on the buttons. So you can see that I have added this button here, and you can see how it's pulling in at the top, a little tuck. So the steps to do that, okay, on the back we have our holes drawn here, like a buttonhole, okay? And you're going to thread this string from the front to the back using these giant needles, okay? Once you've threaded it through to the back, you're gonna tie a knot. You're gonna pull it really tight. That's why you wanna have that friend to help you so you can push the button in as far as you can. Tie a knot here. Then you're gonna tie multiple knots here. And we're going to pull this string as tight as we can away from the buttonhole and then put a staple across it. And that will hold that secure and keep that button from pulling out on the front side. You can see I've poked the needle through and then through the hole. I'm going to take and thread one of the strings through the needle, pull it through, then repeat it with the other string in the other hole and tie the knot.